All right.
Welcome to the Financially Legal Friday LinkedIn Live. I'm Dan Lear, your financially legal host. Here, as always, with my colleague and friend from Gravity Legal, Emery Wager.
Hey, everyone. I'm doing the obligatory test the audio. So I'm going to go on mute here for a little bit while Dan
Yep.
talks.
Wait 10 seconds while we confirm that we're streaming live. I'll keep talking while Emery is waiting, although we need to make sure he also can be heard. We're streaming live to both LinkedIn and YouTube today. So we're blowing up the internet is basically the long and the short of it.
I heard us both, so we're ready to
Sweet.
roll.
we can be heard. So as always, great to be with everyone today. As a reminder, this is our weekly chat about legal case management software. And I'll do my kind of usual kind of high level down to low level talk so that folks can orient around who we are, what we do, why we're here talking about case management, and then dive in a little bit to our topic. So Emery and I help run Gravity Legal. We are a payments platform for law firms and legal tech companies. We have a strong conviction around the fact that payments and candidly, a lot of other things that lawyers do should be integrated into their case management system. And so that's kind of step one. Step two is one of the questions that we get routinely as we talk with law firms about both our system and just generally technology is, what case management system should I use? So and we at Gravity Legal have begun to try to answer that question, to try to help lawyers to orient around this landscape, because it is vast and complex. And we've done a few different things to do that. The first is we're doing on our Financially Legal podcast, we're doing interviews with a number of different case management software companies, with leaders and others from those companies, to help lawyers just learn about those systems. Second, we're doing these weekly LinkedIn Lives to just update folks on different topics that we're learning over the weeks as we kind of orient ourselves around this topic. And then third, which we won't talk a ton about, but definitely want folks to know about, we are building out a database of legal case management software that is currently in beta form and not publicly available, but we anticipate launching in the near future, which will help lawyers and law firms better orient themselves around this question of, what case management system should I use? So if you're out there and you're interested in getting access to this beta version and helping us kind of improve it, you have feedback, you think this is an area you're interested in, hit us up either on LinkedIn or in the chat of this LinkedIn Live, and we'd be happy to send you the beta version so you can take a look. Emery, before we dive into today's topic, does that cover our the big picture? Did I miss anything?
I'll just say, additionally, I did drop in the chat. We also do free case management consulting. So
yes,
there's a link there in the chat if you want to go through kind of this worksheet that we've developed. Our team will look through the database, look at your requirements, and then send you a personalized recommendation from there. So check it out if you're interested. Even if you don't complete it, the questions should be helpful for you as you decide what system to use.
Love it. So for our topic today, we wanted to discuss pricing for case management platforms. And we, as with most of the topics we decide to discuss, have many thoughts. So wanted to talk about how we see lawyers thinking about pricing. I think that's the main topic we want to talk about. Maybe we can start, though, Emery, by giving just some quick background on at least what we've seen in terms of how most case management systems currently price their offerings.
Yeah, so obviously there's been a pretty big shift over the last decade or so on pricing. With a move to kind of cloud software and software as a service. It used to be you buy the software upfront, and then maybe you would pay a kind of an ongoing support fee or something like that. But the primary expense was an upfront purchase. And then down the road, if you wanted upgrades, you had to make other one-time kind of purchases from there. Obviously, that's changed, and most systems, case management systems, are going doing a kind of a per user fee at this point. And of course, that typically comes with other features. As you go up in the higher pricing tiers, you get additional features and more users, typically, if it's a kind of a bundled offering. But for the most part, it's kind of per user, and you can pay monthly or annually in most cases. We have seen some unique pricing options out there. I've seen per matter, which is interesting. There's some kind of plaintiff focused systems out there that kind of match the contingency fee model almost, and allow you to kind of pay based on the number of matters, and I think even the results of those matters. I don't know all the details about that one, but that's a pretty unique one. Then the other unique one, there's a system out there called Locus, really awesome case management for kind of small and mid-sized firms. I don't know if they're still doing. I don't think they're still doing it, but for a limited time, they did a lifetime offer. So you basically could buy Locus for life, and I thought that was a really interesting model. And there's definitely, they have a lot of evangelists there, so I wouldn't be surprised if some firms really took them up on that. So, but those are a little bit more around the fringes. Typically, it's kind of per user, and it's monthly or annually.
And I will say I think I've seen this on like Clio's website and some of the other maybe more established systems. I think tell me if I'm wrong. I feel like I've seen like enterprise pricing where it's like, contact us for a quote. Do you see that, or am I?
I don't know. I don't know about Clio, but yeah, definitely there are systems out there that don't have pricing, or haven't.
Well, or if you get to a certain tier, right? You reach a certain number of users, right? It's like, whatever, $70 per user. But if you get above like 100 users or something like that, then they'll, cut you some kind of a deal, was my sense.
Yeah. I think the structure though tends to still be per user in that case. But you get a discount, or, they bundle it, but it's
right. Right. The one other one I just wanted to mention too is our partner, Clevercase, who currently offers the practice management system entirely for free. That may not be true forever, but at least right now, that's how they're bringing their system to market. So that's another option.
That is another pricing model.
So as we were prepping for this discussion, Emery, I think, and maybe it just makes sense to cut right to the heart of the matter. I think what we've seen, and this is probably the best place to start this conversation, is there's probably some kind of saying or analogy out there for this particular behavior that that I'll miss, or that we'll stumble upon as we talk about it. But I think we see lawyers and law firms to some degree being kind of penny wise and pound foolish. Do you think that's fair? Or like really trying, maybe again, to be a little more direct, but a little more boring, like they really tend to fixate on the cost.
Yeah.
When that may not be the best strategy.
Yeah.
I know you have some opinions on this. Say more about that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the problem with cost, it's a very easy to quantify amount. So I think it's really easy to over index on cost.
Mm.
But when you look at the market out there, let's set Clever Case aside for a second in the free tier.
Excluding
But
the free ones.
I mean, you're really looking at um, a span of somewhere like in the range of $30 per user per month on the small end, and maybe up to like $150 per user per month on the high end. So your delta there is $120 max. And the value you get out of picking the right software versus picking the wrong software as a lawyer or an administrator at a law firm, there's almost no way that the delta is going to be smaller than the delta of the cost difference between bad software, or not even bad software, but just the wrong software and the right software. So it can be super dangerous to over-index on the cost of software. And we do see that a lot because it's so easy to quantify. It pulls people in, and they think a lot about, what is, what I want the cheapest, I want the cheapest system. And that's I think the wrong way to go about it.
Yeah. So pure. Yeah. Well, actually, so what do we think? All right, let's talk about that $100 delta, because I think that's actually a really useful sort of, and that's a big enough number, at least for some firms, to be like, hey, that's $1,000 a year. What costs do you think are embedded in that number, that either in terms of constraints on future growth, just to be very direct, or kind of other things that would, yeah, or even choosing the wrong software, like help me understand why I should pay $150 a month if I could pay $30.
Yeah. Well, I'll just take like one example. Like let's say you are looking at buying Lawmatics. It's a CRM specifically designed for law firms. And Lawmatics has a really great kind of no-code automation tool. So, you can basically trigger things to happen automatically when a certain event happens. So when, client books this appointment, send them the engagement letter, basically. So if you think of how many times someone books an appointment and your alternative is to manually send that, engagement letter, and maybe like manually,
right, because Lawmatics is more expensive than you want to pay, and the $30 option doesn't have that automatic trigger. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, let's say it takes you, 15 minutes to do that, like I don't want to go too deep into hourly rates, but you can see how quickly doing that even once gets you to that delta. So that's kind of an example of just one specific thing that can add a ton of productivity, and it just blows that difference in cost out of the water.
Yeah. What else? I mean, yeah. What other? I mean, I can think of a few, but I'm curious whether you have some, or maybe I can lob in with some.
Yeah, I mean, document automation. If you've
Right.
done a really good job productizing your offerings, you don't want to create bespoke, engagement agreements for everybody who comes in for a high volume kind of matter type. You want that contract to pre-fill, immediately. So, let's get that. Is it, even something as small as like having having little snippets, to drop in your emails. So it's much easier to write, emails. That's super huge. Is, selfishly, is payments embedded? Like, do you have to manually post all the payments that come into your firm? How much time, does that take? versus having it all just kind of happen automatically. So, we could go on for a long time, but all of those things far outweigh the difference in costs. So.
And the interesting thing is, I think if I'm sitting here and I'm a lawyer, or I'm putting on the hats of a number of different lawyers, unfortunately, there's no easy answer. Like the answer is, okay, so Emory says, hey, I shouldn't index on cost. Like, what should I index on?
Yeah.
And the answer is, like, it really depends, right? It really depends on what you need as a firm. I said this to someone recently, and I butchered the quote then, and I'm sure I'll butcher it now. But like, there's the quote from like Tolstoy. I think it's in Anna Karenina. Like, all unhappy families are alike, and all happy families are different for different reasons. But I really feel like that's true. Like, every firm will almost certainly have its own inefficiencies for its own reasons. But the bigger question, as you start to think about a system, is indexing not on price, but on the things that, to your point, that your firm is unique about, or that your unique offering, like you said, whether it's productizing documents, or a real white glove service in intake, or a volume intake process where you need a really heavy CRM, or an immigration practice where form filling is important, or an estate planning practice where triggers and automations and that kind of thing is like, you got to remind yourself to follow up 6 or 12 or 18 months from a certain point. Like, the answer to the question is, of what you should index on, like there's no easy answer, because and I think we end up talking about this a lot, on these weekly chats, is like, there is no perfect system for any firm that I'm talking to right now. In general, the perfect system is the system that checks the boxes that you need checked and does the things that you specifically need done based upon the way that you've built your firm.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about pricing now, and then we talk about all that other stuff all the rest of the time.
Yeah.
So there's a lot there, but if I had to pick maybe one thing, it would be, am I growing, or
right.
do I have goals to grow, versus, am I happy kind of where I am, and I've got clients that send me consistent business. I don't need, new clients to kind of keep moving along. Then, maybe it does make sense to like really, I could see a world where it does make sense to kind of optimize every little cost. But if I'm growing, all of that stuff, all those features, the value of those get amplified for the most part. And so cost becomes much less important for a growing firm versus one that isn't. And I would also say that in that case, thinking about, what system, what's the, what system's going to be right for me when I do actually achieve my goals.
Right.
And so not thinking so much about, okay, what should I pay for today, but what should I pay for that's going to support me when things change because I am successful.
Yeah. So. I think that's almost the case for overbuying, right? We've talked about how we at Gravity Legal use HubSpot, which is a very powerful CRM, but much more accessible than something like a Salesforce. That in some ways, I think we're a little surprised we don't see getting greater adoption among lawyers. But I think there's a really strong case that something like that could be a great investment for a firm that has aspirations to grow and scale. And you don't even need to grow and scale to $100 million. Even at a few $1 million a year, HubSpot's a great investment. And again, we're no shills for HubSpot. In fact, we don't even integrate with them. But it's priced much more expensively than most of the practice management systems that lawyers bring to us and that we talk about weekly on this kind of exercise. But yet it's relatively accessible. It's, again, much simpler to use out of the box than something like Salesforce, and generates a ton of value.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great maybe place to leave it, is if you have aspirations to grow, and I think this is another just point, kind of the flip side of that coin is ripping something out and switching is very expensive and very costly. And to your point, maybe earlier, as those little inefficiencies add up, right? Where it's like, okay, well, today I'm manually handling my engagement agreements, but like, at some point I'll hire someone and that will be less expensive. But it's that on top of non-integrated payments, on top of either a non-existent or a not great CRM. Like, over time you get to a place where there's so many inefficiencies in the system that you underbought that now you've got to rip that out and start from scratch, which is also very expensive and time consuming and has a huge burden on your firm. So if you are thinking about growing, overbuying is probably something you should be really seriously considering.
Yeah. And the actual cost of overbuying, our point is extremely low compared to the other side of the scale there. So.
Right. All the inefficiencies that you lose along the way, as well as the pain of changing later.
Yep.
Great. Well, anything final to say on that before we wrap up, Emery?
I will give a little plug for the for the consults. So if you go in the comments, there's a link to our legal case management workflow. You can fill it out and we'll send you a personalized recommendation. And also, if you want, we're building a database. We said this at the beginning of legal case management options. And one of the things, despite our recommendation not to over-index on price, especially if you're a growing firm, there is links, to all the pricing for the different offerings. So for the different systems.
And we've got reviews up there. We've got interviews, the interviews that we have done with different leaders of those case management systems. We have those up there. A ton of helpful information. So if you're interested in seeing that and giving us feedback on it, please reach out. We're happy to share that information with you.
Yeah, just drop a note in the comments and we will we'll send it your way, or you can send either of us a direct message on LinkedIn.
Cool. Well, have a great weekend out there, and Emery, we'll talk soon.
Sounds good. See you, everyone.